Hey there, I'm TJ Van Tol, and I'm a developer advocate at Blues. And today, I want to introduce you to a new tool we have called Blues Expert. Blues Expert is a tool that improves Blues answers you get when working with LLMs and generative AI tools. This is a lot easier to understand with a demo, so let's take a look. All right, first some quick background. Blues Expert is an MCP server. And MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, but in plain terms, this is just a standardized way for AI tools like ChatGPT or Claude or whatever to connect to things that they otherwise wouldn't have access to. There are MCP servers out there for a number of services you might have used. GitHub has one now, Notion, Azure, Stripes, a bunch of others as well. And now we have one at Blues called Blues Expert. To use an MCP server, the first thing you have to do is install it. And unfortunately, the steps to do so are tool dependent. In our documentation, which I have a link to in this video's description, we have instructions for installing our Expert MCP server in Claude Code, in GitHub Copilot, as well as in Cursor. But if you're having issues installing it for whatever reason, you can either let us know in this video's description, or you can reach out in our community forum and we can help you get up and running. But for now, I'm going to bring up my tool of choice, which is Claude Code. Claude Code is a terminal interface from Anthropic, and it's essentially a chatbot that's optimized for coding, and I think it works really, really well. And specifically, what you're seeing on my screen right now is I have Visual Studio Code open. I like using VS Code for an editor. I've got a standard Arduino sketch on the left-hand side of my screen, and I have Claude Code running on the right. This is the Claude Code extension for VS Code. It's just a way that you can open up Claude Code directly within VS Code, which is what I'm doing. And this is kind of my preferred firmware development environment. And I personally have already done the instructions to install the Blues Expert MCP. I happen to know if I run this little MCP command, I can see the MCP servers that I have available, and Blues Expert is one of them, and it is connected. So I'm ready to start using that as part of when I talk to Claude. And the first thing I'm going to ask Claude to do, and I'll just paste this in and run it, is to build me an Arduino sketch that reads data from an Adafruit BME280 sensor every 15 minutes and queues that data up on a note card. Now, if you've tried to do this sort of thing with AI tooling before, you'll know that these tools generally are quite good. They can build some really cool stuff, but also that they do make mistakes. Sometimes AI tools will hallucinate APIs, or sometimes they'll implement coding patterns that are questionable, or maybe they don't follow best practices. And the job of the Blues Expert MCP is to serve as an expert on Blues topics that LLMs can leverage. And most generative AI tools know how to invoke MCPs automatically, which is exactly what you're seeing here. So with Claude, I asked it to build an Arduino sketch, but I did say to build it with Notecard. So because of that, Claude knows that it has this Blues Expert MCP available to it, and it has tools within this MCP server that it has the ability to use. And actually, the first time it builds up this firmware example, it's probably going to use several of them. So we have some firmware-related ones. We have tools within the Blues Expert that can do doc search, so that's what it's doing now. It's going to look through the Blues documentation. There are also tools in here to verify API docs, so that's the next thing it's doing. It's realizing it's going to need the note.add request, so it's using a tool within there to make sure that it's going to get the right syntax, so that eventually, when Claude spits out our firmware example here, in theory, this is still non-deterministic. AI tools can still mess up even with the Blues Expert. But in theory, this should spit out valid firmware that uses valid Notecard APIs. So it's done. So let's look through and see what it did. So we set up our logging. We do a hub.set with our product with a periodic mode and outbound 60. That looks really good. We're going to initialize the BME280. That looks good as well. We get the sensor data. We're going to print them out. We are going to note.add. We do sync true, which is fine. It'll mean, especially for demo purposes, we'll see our data right away. Our temperature, humidity, and pressure. And yeah, this all looks really, really good. So what I'm going to do is grab my Notehub product UID, because I know I need it up here. And I'll figure out how to copy and paste correctly, and let's just see if this builds. So again, one of the advantages of this tool is sometimes even if it doesn't do exactly what you want, usually at least it'll spit out valid syntax and valid approaches. So in this case, completely AI generated code, but it built first try. Looks like it uploaded as well. And we'll see if we get decent logs out of it. And it looks like we did. Another small thing is AI tools tend to do better formatting on logs and such, which is really, really nice. But yeah, first try, building up a quick little sketch. Everything looks like it works just fine, which is really cool. All right, let's try adding a few more features to show off Blues Expert more. Next, I'm going to tell Claude to use the card.voltage API to get our device's current voltage and to include it in our notes. So it looks like I did specifically mention card.voltage, so that's a good signal to the LLM that it should use Blues Expert. It's going to the API docs to get the correct syntax. And it looks like, so it made one change. It looks like it started by adding the voltage just to get the initial value right here. That all looks correct because I know it comes back in the value. And then it looks like it's done with the rest of it. So it looks like it spits it out in the log and then it adds it in our note. So it looks like we're good to go here. And the next feature I'm going to add, I'll run it after adding this one, is I'm going to tell it to enable GPS on this note card and to take new readings every hour. I asked this one a little different because this time I did not specify a specific API. So it's going to have to go to the docs to figure it out. So it's using the docs search tool within the Blues Expert MCP. And let's see, it came up with a card.location request. It's hopefully going to figure out that it needs to use card.location.mode to enable the GPS. Let's give it a second. And it looks like it did figure it out. Oh, it kind of moved us around a little bit, but I saw it in there. Yeah, card.location.mode, periodic mode to 3600 seconds, which is exactly correct. It is adding GPS data to my notes, which is actually unnecessary because Notecard does that automatically. If you have a location, Notecard is going to include it along with your notes. The logging it's doing here is kind of nice though. It is kind of cool to see this as you're debugging, especially to see your latitude and longitude spit out. But adding this to the notes here is kind of silly. Even the voltage, I think it's doing this because I'm sending it down a pattern. Voltage is on all session events and session notes as well. So technically this is kind of unnecessary. So I think it's just kind of following my example, but it's doing it with totally valid syntax. Everything it did for card.location and for card.location.mode is exactly correct. So I'm just going to take what it did and let's build this and upload it and see how it runs. Looks like it built just fine. We'll upload it and see if everything looks all right. Looks like it uploaded. Again, great logs. I love how it gets even little things right, like the degree symbol and whatnot as well. I have a latitude and longitude. This is almost certainly a cell tower triangulated location because there's no way that my Notecard got a GPS fix in that amount of time. But still, it's really nice to see that data right away. And again, more firmware that just exactly compiled and ran first try, which is pretty cool. Now, the examples I've shown to this point are all kind of firmware related. I was asking for Arduino code, but Blues Expert isn't only for firmware. It can also help you answer just general Blues questions you may have. So for example, suppose I'm trying to optimize the power usage of one of my projects, maybe this project in particular. I could just ask my LLM, in this case, what are some things I can do to make this project just more power efficient or use less power? And the LLM has the option to use tools in Blues Expert to help it with its search. So in this case, the LLM helped build up this query to send to the doc search. It's looking for different information. Let's let this run for a minute and see what it comes up with. All right, so here's our list. So use card.attention, which is a good tip. I love how Claude says it's the biggest impact, but it is a really good power saving tip. To reduce cellular sync frequency, that would have us use less power. So if we bumped up our outbound, that would definitely save power in this project, similar to optimizing the GPS sampling. If we did that less frequently, that might help. Use no file templates. Sure, that's a decent idea. Set appropriate voltage mode. Yeah, these are pretty good tips. So I do think its number one tip is quite good. I would have liked if it would have pulled back using voltage variable values. So if you've never used V inbound or V outbound, that's a really cool way. On the note card, you can adjust the inbound and outbound intervals depending on the battery level of the note card. But overall, I think this did pretty good. And I'd argue that this result that you get, because the LLM is able to use Blues Expert and is able to read the Blues docs, is better that you get just from an average query to something like ChatGPT or Claude without this additional context. And overall, we're really excited about Blues Expert and all of the things it can do. And we'd love for you to try it out. Blues Expert is currently available as a beta release, and we really are looking for feedback to help make the tool better. In this video's description, you'll find a link to our community forum and a post we have set up there to gather feedback. So if you do try it out, we'd love if you went to that link and just let us know how it went. And if you have any questions about Blues Expert or whatever, feel free to ask in this video's comments or to use that same forum post to ask questions as well. And thanks for watching. I'm going to go back to having Claude build some more projects for me. I'll see you next time.